Synth Network.
Hello, it is just gone 7 p.m. Sorry, a little bit late because we were just talking, as you do. Episode 77 of the Synth Network live show. It's a slightly different show today. Well, different in terms of the people we have on, because we're missing Cryss. Cryss is taking a well-earned sabbatical. I don't know if he's watching. I can't remember if he said he was going to log in. I hope you're enjoying it. Turn us off now. Everything's fine. We've filled your boots admirably. Cryss won't be here, but we have got some extra special people to fill his considerably sized boots. First of all, let's throw over to our other resident co-host, Mr. Ben Simpson. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm all right, yeah.
Good.
Not too bad.
Whack the old Hydrosynth out there?
Yeah, I'm in the process of moving half of it over here so I can make room for some other stuff, hopefully. I've got an 88 note Studio Logic old MIDI thing here, so I'm going to use that. Because I haven't got anything beyond 5 octaves at the minute, so...
You're feeling a bit inadequate, are you?
Yeah, I've got octave envy.
Octave envy. I always feel terribly underdressed when you come on, sir. Your shirt and jacket. Is it straight from work, is it, for you?
Well, straight from work ages ago. Came home at dinner, but I didn't get round to getting changed.
Fair enough. Well, you look lovely anyway.
Thank you very much.
So we've got some special people to fill in for Cryss, and the reason I said it was kind of a slightly different show is that we had the Super Booth thing all last week, and we went on for bloody ages. It was like 3.5 hours at least of just yabbing about all of the new stuff, because there was a good amount of new cool stuff from Super Booth. So I described this in the Facebook group as the post-coital Super Booth show, where we're all just going to roll off Super Booth 21, light a cigarette and smoke it slowly and seductively, and just breathe a sigh and take a nice relaxing breath. And we have a few news topics, but we might also just kind of go into some kind of free-form chat. And to do that, we would normally have Cryss, but we've brought back in a regular because we can't seem to get rid of him. Mr. Kent Spong.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Mustn't break that.
No, don't
I've
do
already
that.
broken it. It's held on with a cable tie.
Oh, very good. Yeah, just step away from
Professional
the pop
studio,
shield.
mate.
Yes. Have you had a bit of a rearrange? Things look different. Things look elevated and stacked.
Yeah, it is massively different. Ty will be very, very proud of me. I've removed about 85% of the stuff that was in there.
Wow. And it still looks full. So
yeah, I mean, 85% of the stuff apparently I didn't need.
Well, this is...
There you go.
He's tried that on me before. That whole, you need to whittle stuff down. And no, I don't. I can't. I mustn't. Anyway, look, glad you could join us. What is that behind you that's floating in midair at the back there?
Oh, that's the PreSonus Faderport 16.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Is it good?
There's a couple of things that aren't Visa mountable, and I have been, with my electric drill, making some things Visa mountable.
Oh, very good. Drilling holes in the back of... rather you than me. Anyway, look, great to have you on in wonderful, glorious colour, with Hans keeping a close eye over your shoulder there. Thank you. So we have one more person. And I've been an admirer of this gentleman for some while, because he's kind of got the kahunas to do what I am not really brave enough to do. I did try to be controversial once or twice before, and I just couldn't hack the grief. But Mark Zaffin has an enviable talent of winding people up in a very good way, I suppose.
Me?
Yes, you.
I don't know what you mean there, Robbie. I just...
I have to admit I've yet to watch the Eurorack one because I really want to sit down with a long glass of something and just because I agree with you on this, as many people know.
Well, the Eurorack one was different in that it's the internet, so a lot of people jumped to conclusions straight away. But I was hoping to give a kind of balanced, different opinion on why I wouldn't be buying Eurorack, but the amount of hate that you get in various groups from people, it's very polarizing.
Yeah.
And I kind of expected something, I suppose, from people who just post on thumbnails. You know, they go, "Oh God, there's a thumbnail I don't like." You know, but maybe watch the video first before you do that. But,
it's usually it's required, isn't it? But no, I agree. It's definitely something that people don't do, and I found myself being guilty of it and think, no, stop, watch it, read it, engage with that thing before you comment on it. Anyway, welcome. Thank you. This is the first time on the show for you.
Yeah, it is.
You've popped
Good to be
your
here.
Synth Network cherry.
Not yet. Let's hope my internet holds up.
Okay, well, that's true. That's true. And if anybody is wondering why you are in super CinemaScope, it's hopefully to kind of reduce the bandwidth a little bit to keep you, as I'm saying, you're going quite pixelated. But hopefully it'll stand up. So if anybody is wondering, that's why. And he's not. We're not going to get the Star Wars rolling credits or anything like that. Do you remember those? Do you remember going to the cinema? Do they still do it? Because I don't often go now. Obviously, not many people do.
Cinema. Cinema.
So do you remember when you used to go to the cinema and the curtains would open and then you'd have the adverts and then you'd have Pearl and Dean, and then the lights would just drop a little bit more and the curtains would go just even wider. And
wider,
like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And you knew it was the start of the film, and then the BBFC thing came up, and it wasn't called BBFC in my day. What was it called back then? I don't know. Anyway, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent. I've lost my way. Let's do a show, shall we? First of all, before we do that, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. First of all, welcome to everybody that's in the chat room. There's loads of people in there at the moment, so I'm not going to name you all. You all know who you are, but thank you for coming, and we enjoy your company and patronage. Thank you ever so much. Spread the word. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. If you have, hit the like button. I've just noticed that my cat is now waiting to go out the door, so I'm going to do something to go and let her out in a minute. Seamless link. But yes, if you can hit that like button during the show, that will be fantastic. Also, don't forget that if you want to make a donation to the show, we'd love you if you did, and so many of you have, and you're keeping us on air, which is fantastic. There's the link. It's also in the description of the video down below. You can find us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, of course, in the Facebook group, and of course here on YouTube, and that the handle is the same, at Synth Network across the field. And yes, just make sure you please subscribe and hit the bell. If you're watching this on catch up for the first time, maybe you've joined us because you're a fan of Mark and you've come over from there, just hit subscribe. That'd be great. We are 95 short of the magic 1,000, which means we get a little bit extra stuff. And I will shut up about it then. I won't bother asking once I've hit the 1,000 mark. Who was I watching the other? I was watching some guy who does these reaction videos to old songs. So he must be 25, and he was watching some old 80s video, and he was he was watching Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity, and he was like giving all his reactions, and he's got like a million gazillion subscribers, and all he does is sit and watch other people's videos. Amazing. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. Let's do a show, shall we? Let's go to the first topic. So there's not a huge amount of news topics this week because they kind of burned through them all last week because of Super Booth, obviously, and that everyone had been saving everything up. But I'm going to indulge myself on this one, and there'll be lots of groans around the internet as the first topic comes up, which is this from the guys at Plogue, which I believe are in Canada, and they have a range of software synthesizers called Chipsynths, and they are bit accurate models of the synthesizers they are modeling, strangely enough. And this one is a bit accurate emulated algorithm synthesizer. In other words, it's a software DX7. But they have literally modeled everything, every component, the firmware or the software that ran inside. Everything is done with huge amounts of detail. And they've come up with this wonderful synthesizer that has this amazing interface that is really nice and beautifully clear, and that's always a problem with FM synthesizers. And if you can see so much on the screen. They've actually laid out the operators, these little boxes here, in the same order as they're laid out on the DX1 top panel, the big LED front panel. So they are claiming that this sounds exactly like a DX7 because it is a bit accurate emulation. Jim Glue in the chat has just posted, is it better than DXZ? I'm going to come to that. Yes, in short, it is, but I'll tell you why. It's available now. It costs around £50 or $50 or €50, depending on your exchange rate. It comes as a standalone and a VST2, VST3 audio units and AAX plugin as well. The great thing about this, obviously, is that it can read native DX7 files. It transmits system exclusive data to the synth, so you can use it as a software editor and controller for the hardware if you've got the hardware as well. So it does all of that kind of stuff that DXZ does. But it is bit accurate, and it's stunningly, stunningly good. Now, unfortunately, all of the demo videos are a little bit kind of technical. There's no kind of fancy, 90-second overview of how good this sounds. And one other thing that this does do is that it replicates the layering that you could get in the DX1 and the DX5. So the DX1 and the DX5 there are many things, but the basic thing was that there were two DX7 engines. And you could then use those to layer or split sounds across the keyboard, which gave you a nice, a richer sound. And if you with the performance patches, you could mess around with those individual patches in the performance and create something quite unique. Unfortunately, this is lacking the performance features, but it does allow you to stack an A and a B sound together. So it does get you kind of halfway there to the DX1, DX5 sound. So it really is a slightly more unique version, because there are plenty of software versions of this. I'm going to stop talking because I'm quite excited about this, and I've got some interesting news because I spoke to the developers. But first of all, let's go round the room and find out what people think. Let's go to one of our guests, but let's go to Zaffin first, and ask him, what do you think of this? Did you get a chance to try it, look at it?
Yes, sir, I did all my homework, sir.
Good.
I think the interface is fantastic. I love how the boxes change when they're changing the patches. What I didn't like, and this is nothing to do with that, is the demonstration video they had on their website where they're constantly zooming in on, I suppose, a HD image, and it just goes really, really fuzzy. And it would have been better if they would have just kept it on the screen. So it got to the point where I couldn't actually see what they were doing. I'm going to zoom in now to 12,000%. Yeah, see this pixel? So apart from that, I thought the layout was intuitive. It looked great, and the way that they jumped around, and you can see how the carriers work and all that kind of stuff. Disappointing that the sounds that they were demonstrating didn't utilize the effects or anything like that, or the modulation matrix. They just said, oh, we can do this. And great, can we hear it? Nope. We're just going to show you that, a sound that you can hear on a DX11. Basically, that's what it kind of sounded like, and that was disappointing because I was expecting to hear something using the dual layers. And here, look what you can do if you've got dual layers, a mod matrix, and all these effects. Great, yeah. What can you do with it? Not going to show you. So that was disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally.
No, I agree, and it does. I mean, it can do, like you said, it's got built-in effects, which obviously the original never had, and it's one of those things that when people actually get to play an original DX7, it's like, this sounds awful, but because you need a bit of chorus and reverb, and so the effects in this are really good. The modulation matrix is great. It's so simple and intuitive that I was just patching all sorts of different things very, very easily across that. But yeah, I mean, and I have compared this to my DX5, which is essentially the same technology, and it's identical. It's like DexEd most of the time is very, very close, but this is it's the same. The Arturia one, again, close, but no cigar. But it's as good as you probably want in the mix. But for accuracy, this is. Somebody was asking about the DAC. So you can choose from a whole different variety of DACs, and then you can also mess around with the DAC error rate as well. And you can choose the early firmware or the later firmware. So it's gone down to that real detailed level, and it's just great. Ben, what did you think of this?
Well, this is really what I was going to ask in the show, but you've answered quite a bit of it there. I didn't actually go for it because it was 50 quid, and I've already got the Arturia one, and I've already got Dex, or whatever it's called, DexEd. So I was going to ask you tonight, what is the, if your funds are a bit limited, why are you going to blow 50 quid on this when you've already got those other two?
It's a very good question, and let me try and answer that for you. So if you want something that is exactly the same and can give you layering in a single plugin, rather because obviously you could just load 2 instances of DexEd, throw 2 different patches in there, and then mess around with each individual settings, but it's kind of twice the work. Whereas this, you can throw 2 patches, just pick them and stick them into the A slot and the B slot, and it's there and it's working. And there's like a universal detune, so a very quick way of just increasing the detune between the two things to get that slight chorusing and fullness that you would get from that. So it's a lot more convenient. Is it $50 more convenient? Maybe not. If you want the accuracy, then this kills everything in its path. This is as good as having the actual hardware. And if you want to replicate the slightly noisy DACs, then this is as good as actually having the hardware. If you want to get the... There was a bug in the envelope generators that was a bug that kind of just stayed there because it did some cool stuff and they left it there. And so all the others don't have that. The DexEd and the Arturia DX7V and the FM7 and FM8, they don't have that bug. This has that bug in the envelope generator, which I think the patch that you notice it most on, there's like a water droplet type patch, and when you play that, it's doing things and it's just totally unique. I don't think $50 is too much to spend on something if you want the closest thing in software that you're ever going to get in terms of an emulation. And the problem with DexEd is that, number one, it's not abandonware, but it's developed very, very slowly. There hasn't been a significant update to it for a while. The guys from Surge took a fork off of it on GitHub, and they took it slightly and did some things to it. And then it got merged back into the main thing, and you can increase the size on the screen, but it's still not great. It's a little fuzzy. It's just like it's kind of like the developers do it when they've got a spare 5 minutes, whereas this has got a much cleaner interface. You can have it full size on the screen. It's just kind of nicer all round. 50 is. I mean, I paid for it straight away, and I've got all the bloody hardware, so it's It is very, very good.
I was about to click on the buy it thing, and then I thought, I could spend this on something I'm going to use more. With having the other two.
True. Yeah. I mean, it's entirely. How important is it for you to have an accurate DX7 emulator? This is, as far as accuracy and interface is concerned, I prefer this to the Arturia one, and I like Arturia interfaces. But there you go.
Okay,
Mr. Spong, did you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, pretty much echo what you were saying, actually. But I mean, it's interesting to see something that has been really dedicatedly emulated to this level. It's really gone for it. So yeah, I suppose from that point of view, I mean, if you're really into your FM, then yeah, this is the thing to get. I suppose it costing £50 is $50. Sorry, is mainly because I think there's a hell of a lot of work has gone into it.
Yeah,
and but it's not my thing. As you probably already know, there's very few things I actually like. So I wanted to compare it with something. I wanted to compare it and see how accurate it was, but I don't have anything that cheap here. So.
Nasty.
Oh. Yeah, mate. Yeah.
That was a low blow.
Getting the FM carried away. No.
Yeah, all right. Sonic Link in the chat says, you say it's a controller 2, could it be used, or would it be good for DX7 2 patches? Hold that thought. We also had the comment about DX7. I've kind of covered that. But yeah, let's do this. So, as I said, it does this thing that you can layer, just like the DX1 and the DX5, you can layer 2 patches together, which is great. Unfortunately, it doesn't read performance patches, and I was a little bit upset about this because I thought, how great would it have been if you could have loaded in performance patches? Not that there's many of them. There's very few, actually. But if you could, it would be great, and it would actually open up a whole new can of worms for people to mess around with. So I contacted the developer, as I do, and David, who was the developer in this and the guy that you see in the videos, he got back to me straight away and said, and he's given me permission to say this, they did have, in the beta version, they did have the full SysX implementation of the DX1/DX5, and you could have brought in performance patches, but it caused so many issues in terms of UI design, and it got in the way of other things. And they also did look at implementing the Mark II DX7 stuff, because that has a whole extra layer of controls and features that the original DX7 didn't have. So unfortunately, they removed the Mark II DX7 stuff and the DX1, DX5 performance stuff away. The other thing was that they couldn't accurately emulate the DX5 or the DX1 because they don't have access to one. And their rule is, if we can't do the way we want to do it, we don't do it. It's as simple as that. So I said, you're in Canada, aren't you? That's a shame, because I would have happily lent them my DX5. But he got back to me a little bit later. He says, we've just found someone in Canada who's got one. And so who knows? They're not saying they will, but they're not saying they won't. So that would be a great upgrade to have. But because there is no DX7 Mark II emulation out there, which I find weird because it was much improved on the Mark I. So I was kind of disappointed by that. But for the Mark I, this is about as good as it gets, I think. In my personal opinion. If anybody has any other questions, do feel free. I put my teeth in. Do feel free to throw them at me, and we will, if we can talk about it in the show, we will. If not, just hit me up on the Facebook page, and I can tell you more about it there. I just want to say hello to Chicky, who I think this is his first time. See, look, hello. Mark, you're having an effect. You're dragging in people to us. Welcome, sir. I feel like I know you because I've seen you on lots of things. But welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy it. Spread the word, hit subscribe, and watch Kent choke to death on his beer. You don't get that anywhere else. Anyway, so just to bring this back in...
Korean beer.
Rubbish, isn't it? So this is Chipsynth OPS 7. You can get it from Plogue.com, along with a whole bunch of other Chipsynth products. I want to get Porter FM and MD because those are other FM versions that they've done. But there's a whole bunch of other things like Commodore 64s and that they're doing. So yeah, they're a unique little company. But that's available now for about 50 of your English pounds or American dollars or European euros. There you go. Right, let's stop that one. What should we do? Let's do another. I'm really indulgent. You can tell Cryss is not here. I'm feeling relaxed and free. No, that's not true. I want to... We spoke about this a few weeks ago, but it was at a point where it hadn't been released to the public, and now it has. And I do know that the DK Synergy is... What's happened here? Oh, sorry, yes, let me just do this. The DK Synergy is a very kind of much-loved, fabled, rare synth, because I think mainly because it was associated with Wendy Carlos, and she loved this thing, and she actually developed sounds, a bunch of cartridges for it. This is a kind of additive synthesizer. I don't know huge amounts about how it does what it does, but it's been used on a number of things. As you can see in the blurb there, Donald Fagen used it on the Nightfly, and it really is a very unique synthesizer. There's never been a proper software version. There's been sample-based versions, but not, again, an accurate emulation. The best thing about this is it's free. It's completely free of charge, and will read all of the old cartridges, of which the ROMs exist, and it tells you how to get them on the web page here. But this is completely free, and it's for Mac and Windows. Ben, you tried this, didn't you? Did you manage to get it working on Big Sur?
Yes. Yeah,
Good.
it was just that security thing that I didn't read it properly as usual, and I thought it didn't work. And then when you explained to me in the chat what I had to do, it worked perfectly okay. So yeah, it's fine on up to the most recent software operating system.
Yeah, good. Because they say it's tested up to 10.15, which is Catalina, isn't it? Beyond that, it's not tested, but you can say that it works pretty well.
It did. It kind of froze in a way.
All right.
Only once. It's not like a thing that happens all the time, but it just froze this once. And like, for some reason, when things freeze, you just tend to go berserk and start pressing everything, don't you? And it kind of caught up, but like replayed everything that I'd done. So, like whatever notes I played, like about like 25, 30 seconds after it had froze, it started playing all these notes and then pressing the buttons that I'd pressed, and it was like a replay facility. But apart from that one thing, it worked fine.
Yeah. It's because it's not a production commercial piece of software. When you install it, you install the synth, and then you have to go off to like not a Yahoo Groups, but something that replaced Yahoo Groups, and you download these 4 ROM files, and then you drop those onto the interface, and all of a sudden it springs to life. And then installing the carts, installing the carts is a pretty simple process, but you have to kind of work a bit to get it. But it's free, so that's the payment you make. I'm going to go to Kent next, because I want to know, first of all, I was going to say, have you ever experienced a DK Synergy? And while you say that, I'm going to nip off camera because my cat is dying to get out, and she's going to claw up the carpet.
Yeah, it's at the door, cross-legged.
Indeed, yes. So Kent, tell us about your experiences with the DK.
DK Synergy, very big, very heavy. If you haven't got cartridges or the computer, which was, what was it, Keyfax or something? It was called. I can't remember what the computer was called. You basically have 16 presets on it that you can't actually do anything with. There's no editing facility on the front panel. So this is a good move, actually, especially if you can get hold of the cartridge files for it. In fact, what I'll probably do is I will phone Noel Gallagher and tell him that this is now available, and he might forgive me for breaking his one. So,
I missed you confessing to breaking Noel Gallagher's DK Synergy. Wow. You see, Noel Gallagher and synthesizers, you just wouldn't have thought that until that Arturia video.
In fairness, owning a synthesizer is one thing. Knowing what it is and how to use it is something else.
This is true.
I mean, seriously, he had a VCS3. He didn't have a clue what it was. I mean, if it fell out of a tree on his head, he wouldn't know what it was.
Did he think it was an elaborate battleship?
Probably something like that, or some sort of weird transistor radio you stick knitting needles in. It's like a loom.
Yes, quite.
So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he was a bit pissed off with me when I gave it back. I said, sorry, it's broken. It's all like, oh, yeah, you know, whatever. And so he walked up the path and looked back in anger.
Do you know, as soon as you said the first half of that sentence, I was like, inside, I know he's going to... No.
Yeah, here it comes, and... No, so, yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic sounding machine with access to the sounds and editing capabilities. It is a fantastic piece of kit, it really is.
Yeah. I remember my friend Steve Howell from Hollow Sun got in touch with Wendy Carlos for some other reason. I can't remember what it was. And he just speculatively emailed her via her management, knowing that she was very reclusive and probably wouldn't reply. And he got a reply. And they started talking about this DK Synergy. And she, even then, you know, and this wasn't that long ago, she was still... really, into this and really, still thought it was a wonderful piece of equipment. Mark, did you get a chance to download and play with this?
I had a look at it, but a couple of thoughts. I didn't download it. I very, very rarely download plugins. I did download one of your plugins that you said, but not that one.
Okay.
But what I loved was Ben's... banging everything. It just reminded me of like the opening scene of 2001. I could just imagine him there trying to get this thing to work with bits of bone and But no, I didn't. But it looks great, and the UI reminded me of like a Sound Toys kind of plugin. So it looked quite nice, but I didn't download it. Okay. I do apologise.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I mean, it's a very primitive kind of interface. It's a very simple interface, as Kent said. You can't really program this thing, so there's not a lot to mess around with. But it is quite a unique sounding instrument. And the fact that it's free, it's just like it was bang straight. Messing around with this because I think it came from the Crumar GDS. I think was the first kind of version of this, and this grew from it. But I have a feeling that the people behind this are doing this for an academic project, hence why it's free. But yeah, I think it's a really nice little thing to have. It doesn't cost much. It's not an elaborate website. There's no video demonstrations of it, but they have really, really gone into the modelling of this. Running. So I think this particular spectrogram here shows, top and bottom. One is, I can't remember which one is which. Synergy is on the top, emulation is on the bottom. And if you look at that, I mean, yes, I'm sure people will find, I mean, I've just seen a tiny difference between that one there and that one just down at the bottom. But it's so damn close.
I think you'd be hard pushed to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So they've done a fantastic job, and it's free. So if you want to get this... it's on GitHub, and what I should have done was this. I should have prepared my show earlier. Let me do this now. Look, I'll create a banner, paste that in there, add the banner, and stick it on the screen. There you go. There's the link, and I'll probably put it in the description underneath. But it's Jaracion, I suppose, .github.io/Synergia. or just Google Synergia, and you'll probably find it that way. But that's the place that you can find it on GitHub, and it's completely free of charge. The installation process, as I said, is a little, say, odd. You have to install the thing first, and then you open it, the standalone version. You open it up, and it's like a black box, and you find these ROM files, and all the instructions are there. You find these 4 ROM files, and because of various reasons, they don't host them on the same place. Find them, download them, drag and drop them onto the black box, and all of a sudden it springs to life.
It was a grueling process.
For you?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Very, very.
What I did, I couldn't be bothered with all that, so I just messaged Robbie and said, how does a lazy person get these? And he sent them to me.
That's it. Ask me, and I zip them up and send them to him, but there you go. So there you go. DK Synergy emulation, Synergia, available now from all good GitHubs and some bad ones too. Right. Let's now we've had some joviality. Let's get a little bit serious now, because this week, unfortunately, we had the terrible news, that we had lost a pioneer of British electronic music, at least, and electronic music in general. And that is the terrible news that Richard H. Kirk of Cabaret Voltaire has passed away at age 65. He was a very kind of private man. He was a wild guy, and he did some amazing things within the band and as a solo artist as well. He formed the band in 1973 with Stephen Malander, and it just went from there. I remember seeing him, I think it was on Synth Britannia, that documentary that was on the BBC, and he was stood by a canal somewhere in Sheffield, and he was just talking about the influence of industrial 1970s Sheffield in his music, and I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely. You know, I wasn't a massive Cabs fan, but I knew of their stuff, and the minute he said that our music was like, it was replicating the pounding of the steel foundries, you know, just kind of, it all of a sudden just kind of made sense as to, you know, what was behind, you know, his inventiveness. Never got to meet the guy, never saw them play live, but you know, they've left a huge, massively influential amount of work, and so yeah, along with the likes of, you know, Human League back in the day, they were, you know, the pioneers of British electronic music in the 70s. Anyone have any stories or thoughts about Richard H. Kirk?
I have no stories, but like yourself, I first saw him actually on that Synth Britannia thing. I have a very kind of, as Eddie Wizard. That's like Eddie Izzard, but he's a magician.
He's a magician.
As Eddie Izzard would say, you know, I'm very thinly read, and even though I love electronic music, my background to listening to it has been very sparse, and so I did actually listen to some. And it's funny you should say of the music that he did, and it's funny that you should say the shot of him by the canal, because on Spotify, that's the image of him as the main image on Spotify. But, you know, that's when I first heard of him, and that was a great documentary as well. And in fact, I looked for it to see if it was still available, so I could give you a link, but it isn't. So this is a shame. But
It's not on iPlayer at all, is it?
no, it said it was last broadcast 2019. So
Oh, wow. It's one of those things that, like, every couple of years they throw it onto BBC 4 for an evening or something. But
it's so annoying. I hate that about iPlayer. I mean, why can't they just keep everything there? It doesn't have to be on the front page, but make it searchable so we can find it. Annoying.
Never mind. Yes. There must be a version on YouTube that someone's pirated.
There's a Spanish version on Vimeo or something like that. Yeah.
Britannia. No.
No, it's in English, but with Spanish subtitles.
Oh, right,
it.
with the subtitles. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell you one thing that was good about Cabaret Voltaire is they were there at the inception of all this, like, British electronica, and were, like, very fundamental in it all. But they never seemed to go the same route as it. They always kind of stayed a little bit left field.
Yeah.
You know, like, where as everybody else, like, I mean, everybody started off in that kind of avant-garde area with,
Yeah.
with the electronic music, didn't they? There was like Human League and Kraftwerk was pretty avant-garde, and Cabaret Voltaire was there as well. And then everybody kind of shifted. Even Kraftwerk went a little bit commercial, but
Yeah.
like Human League and then Heaven 17 went really commercial, and it always seemed as though that wasn't something that interested them. They always stayed on the edge, and the music was always edgy, and it was never like you'd never heard a Cabaret Voltaire track and say, oh yeah, that's gonna like fly in the charts, that one. But they were good.
Not quite.
They were good, but there was never anything there that was like hugely sellable, and I think that was that was intentional. They were more about creating moods than
they remain genuine
tunes. Yeah,
absolutely.
Really admirable, that.
Yeah, I always kind of thought of them as like the British, and I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to say it wrong. Einstürzende Neubauten.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that's roughly it.
Yeah.
If Native VS was in the chat room, he would, or if Torsten's in the chat room, he'll tell me off. Or congratulate me, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, he was just insulted his gran, so he's probably not.
Yes. But I always thought of Cabaret Voltaire as like a British version of those guys. I'm not going to say the name again. Who just had this this is what we're doing, this is how we do it, and screw commercial success. That's what we want. So, Ken, any thoughts or ruminations about Richard Cabaret in general?
No, I don't think we crossed swords sonically at all, because I was very much in more the commercial side of the road anyway. I knew of Cabaret Voltaire, but if somebody said, "Oh, name a track," and I'm go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I thought over the weekend actually I'd have a look and see what it was all about, so I can discover it now, fresh. So,
and hopefully more people will do that. I always find it awful that it takes somebody to die for then a whole bunch of new people to go, oh yeah, I must find out a bit more about them. Well, why didn't you find out about them when they're alive? But they're all great artists.
No, I think it's good because that's a way of continuing the legacy.
This is true.
It carries on longer.
Yeah.
Like if everybody knew what somebody did through their career and then they die, everybody's sad about it. But the next generation won't know. So, but if you can have this happen, like when this happens, people go, oh, so what was this all about? Why is everybody so freaked out and upset about it? Well, this needs investigating and checking out. And then it gets out there and it gets played and more people get to hear about it. So
yeah.
But like all great
artists,
legacy,
they don't become massively influential, or a lot of them don't, until they're long gone. They don't earn. I think Van Gogh didn't start selling until he was well gone and dead and buried and earless. I don't know.
His second album was shit up though.
It was.
Yeah,
it was in mono, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
it was in mono. Just solid, wasn't it?
I need a.
Thank you, Trailerfish.
He's here all week.
Wow.
So unfortunately, there we go. Well, at least we've made light of a sad situation. But Richard H Kirk passed away a couple of days ago, and there you go. Rest in peace, sir, and thank you for everything that you've done. It's much appreciated. Right, I see Dr. Manny Fernandez has joined after we've discussed all the FM stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to have to come on catch up, but hey, it was nice to have you all last week, Manny, because you had the whole day off, but you're on your lunch break now, so welcome, sir. Your presence is always welcome. Right, shall we get down with the kids now? Let's do something new and modern. Yeah, that's it. Throw some poses. So, I'm always happy to see Akai coming back with back into the MPC market, because they kind of let it slip. They got kicked out of the playing field by Native Instruments, and are now back with the MPC Studio for MPC 2. Let's have a listen to this.
Moving at the speed of light in the driver's seat. Wanna see how I live, take a ride with me. Oh, oh, when they go on,
There we go. So basically what this is, if I'm not mistaken, and I often am, they've taken the very successful MPC, what is it, the Live? Is it the Live? And what have you got? You've got the MPC X, haven't you, Kent? Or had one, yeah. And you still got it? Yep, good. You've muted your mic, by the way. I can't unmute you.
Dogs have stopped barking.
There you
now.
go. So it looks like they've just kind of taken that very successful paradigm and done the natural thing of taking the software out and the hardware out, separating it all and giving us MPC Studio. Now, I think there is a free version of the MPC software that you can get, and then there's the paid-for version. I guess this is just kind of a controller and a piece of software as a package delivered to capture that piece of the market that doesn't already have that.
So the two of these combined is the equivalent of an MPC Live.
It would seem that way. I'm sure that there are going to be some differences. There's going to be a few omissions or additions depending on whether you go for it. But it's an interesting, a lot of people don't buy MPCs or those single things. So they don't like having everything in a single box. They like to have everything separate and control it. And this will just cover that aspect of those people that were going, I'd like an MPC, but I'd like it as a plug-in, and I'd like a separate controller, and so it just covers that, I guess. I don't know. I never got on with the MPCs. I programmed for them, I sampled for them, but I never actually got down with working with them. And in fact, one of my tabs I've got open on my browser here is a 2-hour tutorial on how to use the MPC 500, because I've got one of those and I've never really got down to using it, and I thought I'm going to give it one last chance, and if it doesn't stick this time, it's going. I'm going to sell it. You heard it here first. So I don't know. Now, Mark, have you got a machiner, haven't you?
I've got a machiner, and what I noticed on this MPC is that it's got the kind of machiner strip now on the side, isn't it? Like the machiner does.
It has, yes.
It kind of looks like it's in competition on first appearances. It kind of looks like it's in competition with the Machiner Micro,
right?
But I think from looking at it, I think what they're doing is quite clever. It almost seems like it's a gateway into MPC. It's kind of it's cheap, and compared to an MPC standalone. And so those, I think, who think, oh, yeah, well, yeah, I just use the computer anyway, so this would be great for me, and they get that, and they think, yeah, that's what I want. And then they get hooked, and then they start thinking, oh, well, maybe I should get a standalone MPC. So I think it's quite clever in what they've done. They've given you a way in. And also, it looks like they're giving you a taste of what's to come on the next MPC line with those kind of strip things as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you could argue that you don't need them because of the touchscreen on the MPCs these days. But maybe not. Maybe there'll be additional, performance strips. Might be useful. So you don't have to go into performance mode on the screen. You can keep the screen doing whatever it is doing, and then have these as performance strips, and maybe more of them on the larger MPCs. I don't know, but I think on first appearances looks like a Machine Micro competition thing, but I think it's just they're being clever, and they're going to sell a lot more MPCs because of this.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it looks a really cool little piece of kit, and I was just looking at the back of it there. I mean, it's very nice and thin. Simple, at the back it's just a USB port. Thankfully it's USB, not micro USB. And you've got 3.5mm TRS MIDI connections, and I guess it comes with a set of adapters as well. And then of course you marry it up with the MPC2 software, in your laptop or your desktop, and you get the whole kind of experience. So there's even a built-in OLED screen on there as well.
Yeah,
all the
it's tiny
plugins.
though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, just like the micro. It's tiny on the micro as well.
Yeah, it is. I don't know whether this would be any good for me, because I have thought about like an MPC Live a few times when I'm this endless search for some kind of like drum machine thing I'm comfortable with. I've never found it ever. Like, and I did think about the MPC Live because I'm used to the Akai workflow. Some of it must have carried over, so maybe that's right for me. But it's a lot of money to spend if it's something that you just dipping your toe in, you know. If this is comparably affordable, then it might be something to look at. But is it a DAW? Or is it something that because like with Machina, you can use Machina within something else, can't you? You can use it standalone and you can use it as a plugin. I'd only be interested in this if it could be used as a plugin. I'm not sure if that's
as far as I'm aware, the MPC Studio software, or MPC2 software, shall I say, is it's essentially an MPC DAW, but I think it can also be used as a plugin. I'm pretty sure.
Cool,
I might be wrong. I'm sure somebody will be very quick to.
I think Lisa will be shouting at the screen right now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, with MPC2, you get all the benefit of these new plug-in instruments as well. You get the Vocal Air Suite. You get all the effects. So it is almost.
Yeah.
I haven't done a direct comparison between the software that comes with this and the software that's built into the hardware MPC, the standalone MPCs. But it looks like a really good way of getting into it, and I have a feeling that it was going for $299.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because essentially it's just a controller and a piece of software. And I don't think you could really charge much more than that. So I might be wrong. Again, I might be completely wrong on that price. But you get the full 16 velocity pressure sensitive pads, which are backlit, 8 banks of those. You get the rotary encoder, the touch strip, the OLED display, and then you get the MPC Studio, the MPC2 software. I mean, it does. Let's have a quick look at this here. So it does look like a really nice, well built, well featured little thing.
It looks a bit Native Instruments, doesn't it, with those buttons?
Well, I just think if you can't beat them, try and join them.
Clone them.
Clone them. Yes.
You can't beat them, clone them.
I mean, Native Instruments really did. Akai dropped the ball massively, and there's lots of reasons for that. But they took their eye off the ball, and Native Instruments were there waiting. And they come with Machina. They get all the endorsements from the right people, from the right musical genres that really use this. And they wiped Akai out. And for a while, Akai weren't doing anything MPC like, unless it was just pads. They even started doing Ableton pad things, didn't they? And it was almost like they thought, we've got, we've lost it. Let's go and try and do something else. And luckily, it seems someone somewhere at In Music has said, no, this is our territory. Let's take it back. And whoever's behind this is doing a fantastic job. I'm just going to try and see if I can find out how much this is going for, because
it's quite interesting though, isn't it? Because it's almost the opposite of what Native Instruments are doing, because Native Instruments are moving into hardware, with their Machina Plus as a standalone hardware. I mean, because they had the Mark III, obviously 1, 2, 3, and it was software only, controllers only, and now they've gone into hardware, standalone hardware. Akai started with the MPC software with a controller, then decided we're going to go into hardware because Native Instruments seems to be beating us on the controller stuff, so let's do a hardware. And then they did that, and now they're going the other way around. They're going, no, let's go back to doing software again. And it's just, I think what they're trying to do is what they did wrong the first time, they're trying to correct, in that they jumped the gun, I think, when they released their initial hardware, just to try and get a footing over Native Instruments when they, had their controller software combination. they jumped again. Instead of developing it into something which would have been this, they kind of decided, okay, let's go to the hardware. And I'm glad they did, because they've had some great hardware come out of that. But I think now they're going back to address, okay, yeah, well, we didn't quite do that as good as we could have done it, so let's try that bit again. But even Ben is saying, oh, yeah, well, if it's only that price, maybe I dip my toe in. And then, what do? Next year, you buy an MPC. Like I said, it's clever. It's clever.
Yeah, and certainly there's, obviously somebody's gone and thought about this, and there's a plan. So I said it was going to be. I've left you on screen purposefully, Mark, because I'm in the middle of doing something. I can't take you off. So yes, just you mouth my words. Somebody suggested that $299 wasn't the price. It isn't. It's $229. I'm seeing out there.
It's even better.
So this is Juno Records, who, if you are in the UK and you're looking for, let me just bring this up here. Add to stream. There we go. So this is Juno. They are great. They're a great supplier, and they do like next day delivery. I've had stuff off them, and I've ordered it at like 5 o'clock at night, and it's turned up at like 11 o'clock the next morning. They're really good. So this is $229, and now this says it's the controller. I'm assuming, which is a bad thing to do on live streaming, but I'm assuming it comes with the software, or the software you just download.
I'm sure it'll come with the full version.
Yeah, because if you go to the MPC Studio website, there is a link. There's a link. Just download the software. So yeah, $229. Does that make it even more attractive to you, Ben?
I've got a mouthful of nuts.
There's something you don't hear every day.
Yeah,
title of your sex tape.
Yeah, I was using the opportunity to chomp on some nuts, but
Not any better. It's not any better.
Hang on, where's my shovel?
yeah, but I would. I'll probably get one of those. I'll try it.
Okay, so you're quibbling over £50 for a bit accurate emulation of the DX7, but you quite happily dropped $230 on this without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we know where we stand. Because
you get a physical thing with it, don't you? That like you can mess with and.
Okay, well, I can't deny that. There's no denying that at all. Okay, so that's MPC Studio, which is ridiculously cheap, £229 at certain retailers. That's pretty amazing, and it's out now. The controller's out. It's and the software.
What's the price of the Machina Micro at the moment then?
Oh, blimey! What am I? Machina...
You're an information highway. Yeah. I could look myself, couldn't I?
I'm Google. Machina Micro. Let's have. Oh, come on.
Who gets there first? You
Machina
probably.
Micro is 185.
Damn.
190 average price.
Yeah, 189. I've got it here. Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's not too. I mean, what's £50?
No, very similar. And also, this is a new product, so it's bound to come down anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Ben, you could buy the Native Instruments one, and with that £50 you're saving, you can buy that Chipsynth.
Buy the thing. Yeah.
Get your shopping advice. So it's available now, and there you go. Fantastic. Akai, very much back in the game, and I'm happy to see that. Right, here's a little couple of plugins, a little couple of effects. Actually, no, 4 effects plugins. Actually, no, do you know what I haven't done? I haven't asked Kent. You've got an MPCX. You heavily invested in one of these big mothers of things. How are you getting on with that? And does this make you think, I could have done this smaller? I could have done this cheaper?
I wish this had come out first. This doesn't look as daunting. Like you, there was a video on YouTube, and it's about 3.5 hours long. And it's this very knowledgeable guy explaining the MPCX, like literally from this button does this, and this button does that, and this is this, and these are the outs, and these are the ins. I'm going, okay. I'm getting to about 3 hours in, and he carries on talking. He goes, right, well, join me for part 2. And I'm like, yeah, God. He goes, well, this is where we turn it on and plug some things in. The first one was just, general maintenance. Oh, my God. Yeah. Because there is so much in it, and it actually is daunting. I've never worked with MPC or anything of this kind of thing at all. I've repaired them, but never really, used one in anger. So I was like lost. So yeah, if this has come out first, I go, right, I can dip my toe with this.
Yeah.
Mess around with, because it was sort of like, it's a little bit more friendly looking, sort of like, ooh, play with me kind of thing. Yeah. Mess around with and screen interaction with the computer and everything like that. I'm assuming if it does have audio in, it's probably via USB or something like that on the back, I suppose.
It will probably go via the software. Yeah.
Yeah. So this would, and because it's so cheap. So this is a really incredibly clever product. Kind of echoing what Mark was saying actually, but. About this
how
is a great
dare
way
you
yes right Tim. Yes. Of dragging people in to the NPC game who normally would go no mate that looks
for the price. It's basically you're paying for the controller, and if you think that paradigm works for you, then it's a minimal outlay with possible lots of and then like as Mark said, you probably we've got them now, we'll drag them in. And when they want to go out and play live with this thing, do you know what? I'll get the
it is really clever. It's like as well, even going as far as using the plugin as opposed to the whole environment. Using the plugin, and then the more you use it, the more familiar you get with that, and then you think, hang on, this whole thing would be easier just done in the standalone, and you move away from your door. Then
Very true.
Then again, the NPC one's only $5.99, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all right, mate. No, I did the big dick bit of just going, I'm going to drop 1,700 quid on this, like that, and see how it goes. So, yeah, this would have been a better thing to do. And then if I find that I can, I can wire my brain up in such a way that I will be able to, this makes perfect sense to me, and then invest in the big one later.
Yeah.
So...
Mac makes a really good point, and I do agree with this. The problem with these brainless controllers is that in a couple of years, when there's no support and drivers, they become a desktop. And this is kind of true, because with the standalone MPC, even if they stop development, as long as it's still working at that point that they stop, it's still a usable thing. Whereas if this doesn't have regular updates to the software, when Akai go off in a different way, this then eventually will just sit in the corner gathering dust because there's nothing to use it for. You can't maybe you know how it is when you upgrade your OS to whatever and it drops support for 32-bit plugins or and something will happen with this. We'll move to 128-bit or something and 64-bit stuff.
It does look like a future draw liner, doesn't it? The kind of thing that when you're routing through all your wires, you find it at the bottom with a couple of knobs snapped off it. Oh God, remember that?
Do you remember this? Oh,
but it'd be better for that to happen with the
by then you've already
quid
bought
unit.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than the 1,700 quid one doesn't work
exactly
on it.
Because by then you've already bought the hardware, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No, I think this is a great entry level for people.
I think I'll probably end up with one of those.
Yeah.
You've already ordered them, haven't you, Ben?
Definitely by Christmas.
£8 worth of them in the shopping bag.
Dear. No, I'd say I just never got on with the whole UI, and I think I've said this a million times before. I've seen people whizzing around an MPC, literally just sampling a break off of a record, and in a couple of minutes, and the fingers are blurred, they've come up with their own break from this sample that they've recorded and that they've sliced and reversed and assigned, and it's incredible, and it's amazing to watch. And I just go, no. give me a computer or a proper keyboard or a proper drum kit, and I'm away. Anyway, that's the MPC Studio. It's available now at various prices. It looks like Charles found it at $2.19 at Anderton, so it's even cheaper than I found it. So plenty of options to buy there and not waste huge amounts of money. Right, let's do some software bits now, because we've got a bit of time, but we'll whiz through these because there's not a huge amount to discuss here, unless, of course, you guys have thought otherwise. The first one is one that I've been meaning to mention for bloomin' ages, and this is from waveTracing. Now, there's been a bit of a resurgence in the popularity of the old EMU SP1200 with the Isla Instruments 2400 coming out and kind of rejuvenating that paradigm. I'm using that word a lot today, paradigm. I like paradigm. There you go. Count the amounts of paradigms I've mentioned during the show. It's like counting Smarties in a jar. The SP950 effects plugin, it costs €20 and it gives you the faithful SP sound, as they say, plus an Akai S950 filter emulation. And it does that whole thing where if you feed a bit of audio through this, when you move that slider up or down, it basically applies the effect that the SP1200 would do natively, because what would happen with the SP1200, because of the short sampling time, if you wanted to sample something a bit longer, you'd play it at 78 RPM or something, and then you'd use the slider to pitch it down to its original pitch, which of course would then bring all the aliasing and all the gritty nature of that lo-fi kind of sampling. So this does this. You just take your loop or your piece of audio, you throw this on the effects chain, and then just pick and choose your setting. And then on the right hand side, you've got this filter, and this little button here joins the in and the out kind of. Is it compression? I'm not entirely sure if it's compression, but basically, if you join them together, you can increase and decrease, but it won't ever go too loud or too quiet. It's
gain compensation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. It's such a simple little thing, but I was trying it out. I literally just opened Logic, got some drum loops from Apple Loops, and was just throwing it through this thing, and like just by dropping that pitch down, you got that crackly, crispy, really nice lo-fi effect. And it's €20, and you throw it in. I mean, let's have a look, shall we, or listen to the demo video. You can hear what it does. Hopefully, we won't get stung for this copyright of Preacher Man. See, as he lowers it down, you can just hear it getting gritty. And drum loop. It just gives it that quality. And I just find that very nice and appealing. I really do. And it's one of the reasons why I am totally gassing for an S2400, especially after Alex Ball's videos. Hello, Alex, by the way, if you're watching. But for €20, you can kind of get that effect and just drop it in on anything you want. Anybody else a fan of the 1200 and that sound?
Well, I like the sound. It is good, and it's great how you can recreate it. It also makes things like kind of punchier, doesn't it? I think like it's the thing that we've just discussed before, where like humans love imperfections in things, and this brings all that into it and adds like kind of almost like harmonic content in there with the aliasing and that, and it that guitar on the Preacher Man thing before, when that dropped down to 45 RPM, that was a miles better sound than it was when it was at the original frequencies and that. So it's a great effect, and it's dead cheap at €20.
Well, it's like 16. Yeah, 16 quid.
Yeah,
I think I paid for it. Yeah.
I didn't get it, but I think I might have a go at that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the other thing that. Let me just bring this up on here. So this is the first product that waveTracing have released, which is the SP950 effect plugin. There is a web version of the SP950, which is a browser-based thing. It's not particularly fun to use because it's all clicking and stuff. There's obviously no control. But grayed out over the side here is an SP web desktop application. It doesn't say plugin, but it says desktop applications. They're looking at building a standalone version of this anyway, which will be interesting. I've just done that bloody thing. I'm going to have to change my my hotspots on my screen because if I flick too far to the left, it sends the screen into sleep mode. Mark,
Hello.
Did you have a go with this? Do you like crushing your bits?
I didn't download it, but I did listen to the demo, and it's great that I've been listening to a lot of Jamie Liddell podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
He's on about. He always does kind of his nitty, where he does lots of things. But one of the things that he always talks about is not always, because that would sound like that's all he does. But speeding things up, like he was saying, sampling it and then slowing it down. Mm-hmm. I just thought it's so convenient just to have a slider that does that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it sounds compared to an original because I don't have an original, never had an original. Yeah. But it did sound good. And so and for 16 quid, having something that sounds good, I mean, it just added so much more punch to the kick drum as well. When it was lowered down, it just sounded like it was really smacking, you know? And I just thought, wow, why was it doing that? Just because it's lowering, you know, but I couldn't quite understand why it was doing that, but I just knew it sounded really good. So I will get this, I think. Anybody who's listening to it, I suppose, via the stream won't really hear the same thing because we'll have this aliasing twice, and some of it might sound like the stream aliasing, but listening to it on its own, which probably isn't that great anyway, but you could definitely hear, oh wow, that's really doing something nice. But I haven't had any inkling to buy the SP2400 because I just don't conceptually get it. We've got sliders on a drum machine. It's like, what's going on? And it's like, oh wow, they do pitch now. No, they're not doing pitch now. They're doing envelopes. It's like, so it scares me. But maybe if I played with it, it would make sense. But just looking at it, it's just like,
it's funny you say that because I feel that way about the MPC. And when I look at the 1200, and I've always lusted after one. It's one of those things you look at and you think, yeah, I'd get that. I would understand that. And when I saw the 2400, I thought, this is it, because you know the 1200s fetch stupid money original. And then if you want to take your 1200 and have it modernized by Mr. Rossum himself, it's another, you kind of double the cost, so you're in tens of thousands, but you get a nice little plaque on the back that says that Dave Rossum's upgraded it for you. Another thing I like about this is the fact that you can have multiple instances of it, and it allows you to change the color scheme so that you don't get confused, which, you know, when you get to my age, that's a useful thing to have. So you can change the color scheme, and you won't get confused as to which version of this, or which instance. That's the word I was looking for. That you're using. It's compatible across most of the platforms, as you can see there. Kent, are you a fan of the SP1200 sound? Would this be useful to you?
This might be controversial. Controversial.
You.
There's a first. I don't get this. I get this.
Okay.
I don't get it. I bought. I had an Akai S612. I had a Mirage. I had stuff. I spent thousands and thousands of pounds trying to clean samples up.
Yep.
Getting samples to be better. And now it's like, no, you want them to sound like shit. Do you? I'm sorry, I don't get it. No, it's all right. I know, horses for courses and all the rest of it, but it's like, no, I don't really want to make my samples. I don't want to go back there again.
No. Yeah,
I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that argument, but if you listen to something that was done in the 90s, which is clinical and pristine, and if you listen to something which was done in the 70s, which was on tape and it was noisy and all that kind of stuff, the one done in the 70s always sounds better, no matter what the song is. It just sonically sounds, to me, that is, can't speak for everybody, it sounds wide and big, and there's something about the noise. I think we, as humans, we we're difference engines, aren't we, in our brain? And so when we hear noise and things, it's suddenly, oh, it's different now. But when we hear something clinical, and it's, especially it's a repetition, like a sample, and it's clean and crisp all the time, I think it makes it a bit bland. And that's what I think. That's the attraction to it, is adding the noise.
I get that. I mean, it's with samples, I'm like that. With tape, wow and flutter and boom and grumble and all the rest of it, fine. I like all that as well. But with samples, it's just a thing in my head of like, I want the sample to be as clean as humanly possible.
Oops, I put the wrong
after
caption on
going-
it. There we go. Apparently, according to Inky, there is a 1200 emulation for the master channel on your MPC, she says, in case you change your mind, Kent.
Well, I'll look at it, but I might do it through gritted teeth. But yeah, it's just a thing. It's just a thing with me of banging my head against the wall for years and years and years, trying to get clearer samples.
Yeah,
To now want to go back.
I think it's I think what Mark said is right, that the human brain prefers a little bit of noise, because pretty much there's noise all the time, even when you sort of lie down in your bed and it's the middle of the night, you can still hear something, and if you don't, it's a bit disconcerting. And so I think that there's an element of that I think that we found after we pursued this relentless pursuit of cleanliness in terms of our audio. It's the same with recorded music. We went from vinyl records to cassettes to CDs. All the time we're stripping away elements, whether it's elements in the audio or whether it's physical elements like the sleeves or the packaging. And eventually we get to this world where we have no sleeves, no packaging, a tiny little thumbnail, and then this kind of compressed audio file. And we think we've reached nirvana in terms of music distribution, when actually what we've seen happen is it all kind of fall away, and everybody, well, not everybody, but so many more people are getting back into vinyl and CDs because we miss those little extra bits. And it's the same with the audio. We've strived from the late 70s, when digital sampling became commercially available at very low bit rates, and we've strived over the years to make it better and better and better and cleaner, and with higher bigger bandwidth and lower noise floors and all of this kind of stuff. And then we realize, actually, in our relentless pursuit of perfection, we forgot what actually made something feel good at a subconscious level. And that's where maybe we want to add this stuff back in. Also, there's the fact that maybe we've got to this point where we're super clean and super crisp and clear, and people just want to be different, because that's what pushes kind of creative. I want to be different to all that clean, sharp, crystal sounding stuff. I want to be dirty and gritty again. So maybe there's an element of that. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'd probably use it in sections, or if like a percussion part, just to give it a bit of grit and bring it alive a bit. You could do it with like envelope shapers and saturation and stuff. You can do it a little bit then, but that's a really particular kind of sound that people do kind of want again, isn't it? It's got that like retro vibe when you hear it. It's just straight away. It's
Bottom line is, if it works, it's good. If you like it, it's good. And there are going to be. You're not going to have people doing orchestral scores and then shoving a whole bunch of SP950 plugins on them, because that's not where it's going to be.
I might.
Well, yeah. Actually,
eventually.
There you go. So there you go. Maybe that's the next thing. But it's horses for courses, and at the end of the day, all these tools do wonderful different things. But does it sound good to you? Then that's all that matters. And if it sounds good to other people, then that's a bonus. SP950 from wavetracing.com. It's €20. It's out now. If you like it, go and get it. Another plugin, and this time this one is free, but for a limited time only. Was this wonderful thing from the people at Overloud, and this is the GEM mod, which is their take on the Dimension D. And let me just add this to the stream. There we go, GEM mod Dimension. Now, what they're doing is they're giving 1,000 free licenses away every day for 7 days, and I believe that it runs out on Monday, and I don't know whether that's Monday US time or UK time. But all you need to do is go to overloud.com/free-gem-mod, and you will be able to see this big button here, free download, and then you can just click on that and download that for free. It's normally $99, and it will be $99 after September 27th. I haven't had a huge amount of time to test this. I don't have an original piece of hardware. I don't have the cloned piece of hardware. I do have Arturia's version of this. So I need to compare it to that, but this is free.
I compared them.
Right then, let's put you on the spot. Go for it, Ben.
Well, you know what?
Go on.
I put it on, and I thought, yeah, that sounds pretty nice. That, and then I put the Arturia one on, thinking that the Arturia one was going to be, because I didn't realise that it went up to 99 quid eventually. I thought it was just free, and so I thought the Arturia one's obviously going to blow it away, and it didn't. In fact, I think that the Overloud one is better, and you've got these extra. You can go into the Arturia one and into advanced mode and have a little bit more editing, but the editing on this is far more comprehensive, and that stereo width control that's on it, that's just it's worth getting it for that alone, because that's great. Yeah, it's really, really good. It sounds great to me. I think it's better than the Arturia one.
Yeah, so a big thumbs up from you then, yeah?
Yeah,
Good.
definitely. Yeah.
Mark, I saw you nodding your head there. You
This
agree?
is the plugin I downloaded, like a good boy.
Hey.
Tried it on various kind of sounds, synths, pianos, all that kind of stuff. It just sounds really, really nice. I don't know if it sounds like a Dimension D, never had one, but as an effect, it sounds really, really nice. It sounds really lush. And also, on vocals, it sounds quite transparent. It doesn't. It's weird. It's not kind of. I got a chorus on now. You know, it's obviously you can change it, but no, I was very impressed. I was definitely best money I spent today.
Yeah, excellent. Kent, do you? I mean, we know you and love you for your synthesizer work, but do you repair effects much?
Yeah, I do. I used to own a Dimension D. I sold it to Coldplay for some stupid reason.
So what was that noise? Oh, it was the name dropping in the background I just heard there.
Yeah, ding, ding. Oh yes, yeah.
Go on.
No. Yeah, I had a quick look at this. I couldn't actually see whether it was capable of a trick that there is on the
we're pressing all the
Dimension
buttons.
D is pressing 1 and 4 to get.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Oh, there you go then.
Oh yes, it says all modes are simulated, including the combination of multiple buttons. So yeah, you can.
Because you need 1 and 4 to do. It produces that dimension for the Trevor Horn.
Yes.
Kind of sound. I think he had one on the end of the chain with 1 and 4 turned on and just left it like he never turned it off. It was always on the end of the chain. So yeah, because it's good, because when these things pop their pants, there's a lot of parts now you can't get for them,
right?
And they're very expensive and all the rest of it, and heavy and all the rest of it. So this is brilliant. Love it.
Good. Yeah.
Because I didn't think the Arturia one was that accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. So, like Mark said, I've not got one, never had one. Couldn't say whether it's good, but it sounds nice. I will have to try and run it side by side with the Arturia and see what happens there. According to these guys, you can run more than 1,000 instances of this on a MacBook Pro without any noticeable lack of performance. It's got a very low CPU usage, which I imagine the Arturia probably hasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit heavier.
Yeah. But yeah, very interesting. And it's free. So look, you've got the whole of the weekend. Anyone that's watching that hasn't already gone out and got this, you've got the whole of the weekend to go out and get this. But there are only 1,000 licenses a day. So get in there quickly. I don't know, how many of these they're selling or giving away a day, but I managed to get mine without any problem just the other day. So fingers crossed.
I think it's well worth the 99 quid, really.
Yeah, I suppose.
So get it while you can, while it's free, because it's probably never going to be on that offer again.
I couldn't actually see it for sale in the shop. They've got it as part of a triple bundle.
That's right.
But not individually. So maybe this is like a launch and they're going to have it for sale individually. I don't know. But the triple bundle is cheaper than 99 quid. So I was a bit confused by that.
It's 69 euros inclusive of VAT.
Like, what?
So yeah, you get there's a symphonic, which I guess is a model of the Yamaha symphonic function. There's the ensemble, which looks like it's from the Selena. And then there's this modular thing at the bottom here. I don't know quite what that is, but yeah, this is kind of like 3 plugins in one package. Yeah, Dimension, Ensemble, and Symphonic, and that's just a mere 69 euros, which is normally 129. So I guess they want you to buy the bundle for 129, but if you want to buy them individually, it's 99. So maybe that's the model. I don't know. But yeah, looks nice, and it's free. So get in there now. And if anybody's able to get one free right now in the chat, and just let us know, because then at least we know there's a few licenses left in today's batch. And again, where are these people based? Italy. Oh, Modena. Oh, there you go. So they're European time, so their day ends an hour ahead of ours. So you've got a few hours left until the next batch are made available. Right, that's Overloud, and their Dimension GEM MOD Dimension plugin. Right. One last thing, and then we've kind of got like half an hour to kill, so we can have a little chat about something. This last thing is, again, it's another free plugin. Now, I bought a thing called Chord Jam, and we did cover it on the show a little while back. But the people behind it, a company called Audiomodern, they have just released a couple of freebies as part of their package. They do a whole bunch of stuff, and the Chord Jam one is is a kind of a chord generator with loads of functionality in there. But they've now got Gatelab, which is a creative gate sequencer, and Filterstep, which is a creative motion filter. And these are both completely free of charge for Mac, Windows, and iOS in VST 2, 3 audio unit and AAX formats as well. They really are very clever little creative tools, and I do like a creative tool. Let's have a listen.
Introducing Gatelab, a creative gate sequencer, volume modulation generator, and beyond. Choose from a variety of randomizing modes, density values, flow or gate mode, and built-in presets. Gatelab randomizes a unique combination of parameters and is delivering endless rhythmic effects. It can also send MIDI data, giving it the ability to randomize parameters in other plugins. Chop up any audio signal through a number of music creation features and generate fresh new ideas on the spot.
Now, I find these things particularly useful when I have a bit of a block and I think, I've got nothing in my head, but I want to. And so I'll put something like this on and then choose a plugin or put some hardware through it. And then you sort of find something, you just hit random buttons, or you just maybe draw in something, and all of a sudden something will appear and you can then start working with it. I don't always necessarily use it as all these tools, because Reason has a lot of players, doesn't it? And you can have chord generators and arpeggiators and I like using those for this kind of thing, just for kind of getting me out of a rut or just giving me some inspiration. How about you guys? Any thoughts on the gate sequencer? Is this something you use, Mark, at all in your productions?
I love motion sequences, which is one of the reasons I love the Minilog still, and the Rev 2 as well. When I first saw it, I thought it was a MIDI sequencer. So I thought, oh my God, how cool. You can just do all this to any synth. Brilliant. It's not. It's audio. So that made me think in a different way. But the UI is fantastic. They've really thought of everything. You can mute steps. You can, the probabilities, and also you can lock steps that you always want to have. For example, if you wanted the first note to be always at that particular level, you can lock that, but then you can have the other steps completely random, for example. And I thought it was really cool. I never thought about doing it with audio before, only with MIDI. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Kent, are you suitably inspired by stuff like this, or is this just like, meh?
This is all right in its place, really. I mean, I know there's a lot of I've got quite a few VST instruments actually that have this kind of thing already built into them. But obviously that's not going to give you the ability to cut up external audio and stuff like that. I think its real selling point is the fact that it will work on iPad and a phone as well. So you can have a little fiddle around and maybe come up with something, while you're waiting for the bus or whatever, and go, when I get home, I'm going to have a crack at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you say they were free?
Yeah.
Or cheap?
Free. No, free. Free.
Oh, so very cheap.
Yeah, incredibly cheap, yes.
Incredibly cheap, yeah.
So, yeah, and literally
So
all
cool.
you do is you just... I think you have to sign up for an account with the website, and then it's just go in and I think you'll find that once you've signed up for the account, these are already in there, and you just hit the download button, and then away you go. Ben, what do you think?
I really liked it. I thought it was good. It did remind me of Reason, the sequences that you've got in there. But then you've got a whole load of routing to do. You want to take the sequencer output to the filter or what have you. This just works on whatever you put it on. And the dual lane thing, it is this one that's got the dual lanes, isn't it? That is stereo, so you can do these like little intricate speaker to speaker things really easy, and you can do that in some synths, but like you can do this on anything. You can do it on a guitar, you can do it on whatever you want, and I think it is good. There was a MIDI gate in Cubase, well, I think there still is, which is quite similar, but this is far more sophisticated, and I think I combined the two of them together on a sequence that I had running, and it just totally transformed it. It was unrecognisable from the original thing, and it was really quite good as well. That's with only messing with it for like 10 minutes. Like this thing sounded ace. So they're free. Get them in your collection, and like what you're saying, Robbie, when the inspiration's like a little bit low, get messing on them, and it might spark you off into doing something great. Definitely get them because they're great.
Yeah, really absolutely. Just to kind of go back to what we were talking about before with the GEM mod, both my friend Neil Fellows and my other friend James Dyson have both reported successful downloads of the Dimension D whilst we've been on air. So there are licenses available still today, but if not, there'll be another 1,000 tomorrow, another 1,000 on Sunday, and then maybe a few more on Monday. The other thing that was free from these guys was Filterstep. So let's have a little look at that one.
This is Filterstep by Audiomodern. Filterstep is a modern motion filter plugin with unlimited potential for creating a variety of intricate rhythmic movement. This plugin can give you incredibly complex and nuanced results based on various filter effect settings and almost infinite possibilities for sonic exploration and movement randomization. To begin, select your filter type. You can choose from high pass, low pass, or band pass. Now, let's click the dice button to randomize the filter steps. Here we can choose the smoothness of the effect, as well as the resonance of the filter.
So I think we get the general idea there. This is again, it's another freebie. It's very simple. They're beautifully designed as well, very nicely laid out.
This is the one I
Very
was
simple
actually
to
thinking
use.
about. Sorry, earlier.
Oh right, so okay, so if you rewind the video and then all of those comments relate to this. This is great, and if you this and the other one together, then blimey,
Yeah.
And the chord jam one, which is the one that we spoke about, the paid for one, which is not that expensive, does brings just one key, you get a chord, but you choose the oh blood the heck, my brain has gone. What do you call the
Carrot.
no
Inversion? No.
no, not inverse. The tune. No, it's not the tuning.
Carpet.
No. Oh, God. I'm losing it.
Sunglasses.
Cheesy Watsits.
No. Major, minor,
Brown.
Phrygian, all that kind of stuff.
Scale.
Scales.
What scales?
Scales.
In your skin.
What on
Well, when
earth?
you're making a cake, yeah.
Yeah, my head. I don't know.
I'll tell you, that video, though, when it was playing, the one that you've just played just now, I was just waiting for any Snow Patrol song to start playing.
It has got that
Yeah.
bad, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Snow Patrol?
They started making plugins, I think.
Yeah.
I like their first album.
That first album was great.
That was great.
It was really good, yeah.
Frozen out.
Yes. So, Filterstep. Anybody else got any thoughts on this?
Originally called Polar Bear.
Pol-
Snow Patrol there. Yeah, it was on
Were
the
they
Chase
really?
the other night. Yeah. Well, according to the Chase, it
I
was.
thought
anyway,
this was
yeah.
going to be a joke. I thought that
No,
was,
no. They're obviously
you can
into
never
the
tell with
frosty,
Ben.
frosty side. Yeah, I thought it was just as good as the other one, and like combined, fantastic together. It might be an idea to stick them together because they work that well together.
Yeah.
That they could be one unit. You just
Yeah.
switch one off if you don't want it. But really, really good.
Good stuff.
Superb. I might have another look at that chord jam thing now.
Yeah, I really like that. That's kind of,
Yeah.
again, that's the sort of thing that I use. I think, I want to write something. I can't really think of what it is, and I sort of put that on and just hold a key down and maybe press another key until something starts. Oh yeah, actually no, there you go.
Yeah.
And then
That's a
yeah,
bit
you're
like
off.
how I work. It's like I used to sit there like writing things, all the old songs that I've done in the past, or old music was always like kind of properly composed. And now I'll get like a riff or something, and I'm editing to find the right notes. It's less musical, but I seem to get where I want to go better doing it that way.
Kent, what do you think? Are there any thoughts on the filter step?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very nice and everything. What I did notice was there was a particular feature on there that I noticed that now means that there's yet another feature on the anaglyph that's no longer original.
Oh.
Because they've done it as well, or along those lines.
You can tell us what that is.
That's another one. Basically, when you step a filter,
Yeah.
and having not so much a slew between the steps, but to actually be able to introduce an actual waveform, select a waveform to follow on the steps. It's weird. If it, say for instance, if it was sine wave, you have your steps and it would sine wave to these different steps. It's a weird thing. It's really hard. It's really hard to describe, actually.
The shape of the slew.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but it also pulls in various elements with the resonance and knocking holes in the filter as well. So you can punch holes in it.
I don't think it really matters, Kent, that somebody else has got it, because filters sound differently, and that, and it'll be a physical thing anyway. It'll just.
Oh yeah, no, it's no
matter.
biggie. It's just one of those things where I think that's the second thing I've seen today where I've gone, oh, somebody else has done it.
But I've seen images of renders of the anaglyph, and it's going to take a long while before anybody kind of replicates anything on there because it's so full of stuff. So
yeah,
hope.
yeah. Yeah, open it up and it's a Mac Mini. I go,
Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi, yeah.
Dr. Mike Metley, author of fantastic new book from Bukes or however you pronounce it, Synth Gems 1, out in all good bookshops very, very soon. And will be joining us as a guest. I'll tell you a bit about that later, in November. But he's just put on here, note that at least for iOS, there is no guarantee that these will stay free because Filterstep used to cost. He bought it. Oh. So go and get it now is the thing. And if you don't use it, then fine. But if you then hang around too long, you might have to pay some money for it. So thanks for that tip, Mike. And we'll talk about when Mike's coming on the show to talk about Synth Gems 1 a little later on. So that's kind of like everything that we had on our news topics. It's kind of been a much more relaxed thing. I think by now we weren't even halfway through what we were going through last week.
We had tons to get through last week, didn't we?
It was
3.5 hours, wasn't it?
At least. Yeah, we really went for it. And I got into so much trouble late because, like, Friday nights, I do the show and we finish about, sort of roughly around 9, just after. And then I go downstairs, me and the missus, we'll have a drink and we'll watch our shows. And, of course, on Friday nights, we have Ted Lasso and the morning show has just started up again on Apple TV. So we watch. But she has to wait for me. And I didn't get downstairs and sort of, like, settled until, I don't know, 10:30, by which time she's been up since 6:30. She was falling asleep, so I got into a lot of trouble. So I mustn't be late again because, yes. Anyway, right. So we've got about sort of 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more. I sent you guys a few discussion topic ideas. Were there any there that took your fancy?
I can't remember them now.
Can't remember. Okay, so we were talking about binning vintage and going emulation, replacing expensive, rare vintage gear with accurate software and hardware emulations, which we've kind of touched upon already today.
I'd be interested to see what Kent thought about that, as soon as it's like...
The other topics were polyphonic voice count, how important is it, and what is adequate. And the third one was how do you see a computer... or do you see a computer as an instrument, and the pros and cons of software and composing? So I don't know. I mean, saying we've only got like 15-20 minutes, but I want to kind of fill some of this time with some useful discussion. And lo and behold, Roland Cloud. Sorry, I've had no problems with Roland Cloud now, and it's just come up with a bloody login screen right in the middle of my show. See,
it knows.
Tuesdays. It does.
What's that? You're talking about vintage emulations? Login screen.
That's it. Hasn't done that to me for ages, but but it's a different login screen. I've never seen that one before.
Do you have to log into your DX5? No.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. So, what do we want to do? Should we do polyphonic voice count? Because I think that would probably finish.
4.
You say 4.
4.
Is that your favourite?
That's my minimum number of requirement. Yeah.
So I guess where we were going with this was that there's been a discussion, I suppose in the last couple of years, with some of these analog polys that have been coming out. This one behind me, we derided it when it first came out as only having 6 voices. Then you had the Prophet 5, which has 1 less, but then the Prophet 10, which has a few more. You've got the Moog 1 in 8 and 16 versions. And I guess, as far as analog polys go, there doesn't seem to be like a standard that everything is 8 voice, but that was always the case, wasn't it? Back in the day, your Junos were 6 voices, your Jupiter 8s were 8 voices. How many voices? CS80?
8.
8, yeah. So 8 seemed to be like the standard, but lots of people were complaining. Take 5 has come out, and that's a 5 voice, isn't it? I've been playing with this thing, and I was saying to you guys before we came on air that I want to marry this thing. I love it. it's just gorgeous. It sings to me. It's fantastic. And I was worried about the 6 voice count. I thought, I'm not a massive keyboard player, but I like to hold down a couple of low notes and then maybe a 4 note, major or minor or something on the right hand. So then I can see things getting a little bit tight, but I've never noticed it. It's never bothered me at all. Yet some people think it does.
Thing is, if you're playing like an extended chord with your right hand and an octave bass with your left, it sounds great in isolation, but when you put it in with anything, it starts swamping up the mix, and you've got to like do a low cut on it, and that so it doesn't interfere with the bass. And so really, you don't need loads of notes unless a synth is offering layers or multi-timbrality or something. I think like 5 is actually enough for an analog polysynth. For me, that's because, like I say, you're spitting out too broad a range of frequencies if your hands are all over the place playing massive chords. So you're better off just playing a triad, and if it's a pad, because that's the easiest to control in the mix. But if you've got like the Moog one has got 16 voice option, I'm presuming that can layer things on top of each other. Cause
I think so.
Yeah, 3.
There's no other reason that you'd need 16 voices. That's
Is the Moog one? It's not multi-timbral at all, is it?
Well, you can have 3 instances, can't you?
Can you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't afford one. Sorry,
but
Chris will get that joke. It's. I totally get what you're saying. Because it does, but I just feel like if a polyphonic. I guess it's because I was interested in synthesizers when they were monophonic and low polyphony, or 4s and 6s and maybe some 8s back in the day, but I couldn't afford to buy any of them. When I actually got a decent job and moved out of a bedsit into a proper house and had some space to put stuff, I started buying. And the first thing I bought was 64-note polyphonic, 32-part multi-timbral. So therefore, the polyphony was necessary, and I could do entire compositions off this one box, which is a Roland Sound Canvas. And every other synth I bought from then onwards was at least 16-note polyphonic, and in some cases still 16-part multi-timbral. So I just that was me. And as soon as it's like when I looked at the Chord Prophecy back when it first came out, and I snorted in disgust at this thing that cost £1,200-1,300 that was monophonic, monotimbral. 1 note at a time. I can't play flipping chords on this, and you want to charge me like 3 or 4 times what I can buy something else that will do 64 or 128 note polyphony. I just didn't. I wasn't interested. But then you get to play monophonic stuff, and that it has a place. But the voice count was always very important to me, and it took me a long while to get my head around that. But I get what you're saying, Ben, about the multiple kind of frequency that it takes up. Mark, what's your favourite polyphony?
Well, like I said, it's a minimum of 4, and the reason is I think a lot of people who play synths who want a lot of polyphony are thinking of a synth as a piano, in that a piano. You've got strings which are hit, obviously, struck with hammers, and they resonate and they have all that tail to them, regardless of whether you've moved on to another note. They have like an ambience and everything anyway. So I think a lot of people, when they've got a synth, they think, well, I need a lot of release. And they're thinking that mimics what a piano is doing. And then you start seeing when you're changing chords, that release has been cut off, and you have this horrible end of a release which has been abruptly cut when you don't have enough polyphony. But I think that's just a misnomer of the whole way you should be approaching a polyphonic synth, personally, because I very rarely have a long release on any sound. If I want a long release, I'll put a delay on it, or reverb, and that gives you the ambience. And so when you're moving chords, that that does happen. You still have like the piano-esque effect, if you like. Now, exactly what Ben was saying, in regards to, you don't want 2 notes here and then I'm going to play a 5-note chord up here with the same sound, unless you're doing a solo performance of something on synth, where's that going to fit? It's going to fit nowhere. You'd be better off having 2 synths. You'd have a mono where you play with your left hand, maybe, and some poly where you can play 3 or 4 note chords. And that's why I say 4, because I very rarely would want to play 4 notes at the same time on a poly. I don't play jazz. I don't use them to make artificial piano sounds. If I want a piano sound, I'll get a piano sample. So I think it's just a different way of thinking about synths that people tend to think, no, I need all the polyphony for my release. I need the release. But really, you just need effects.
Yes.
Stick a delay on it. The monologue, the mini-log, for example. I got the mini-log. That's why I'm pointing over here. I got the mini-log here. And one of the great things about the mini-log is it's got a built-in delay. It's not, it's an analog delay as well. It's really crunchy and horrible sounding in a good way. But I use that a lot for release. I use it if I'm making like a pad type sound on it. I will use that delay, not particularly long, but you don't even notice it's a delay. It just sounds like release if you do it right. And so that's why I think 4, unless like Ben said, you've got layers, or layers, then that's different. But like the Rev 2, for example, I've got the 16 voice version because of that reason, for the layers. But really, I could have got with the 8. I just wanted to be the big shot. So that's kind of thing.
Yeah. And you always feel badly done to, don't you? I remember, like, I came within, like, seconds of buying a Modern and I missed out on it. But I would have always felt disappointed with the 8 voice one. Like, I bet the 16 voice one's miles better.
But I mean, it's funny you should say that, because I still am deeply interested in the Rev 4 Prophet 5, and when they brought that out and the 10 at the same time, I'm thinking, well, why would I buy the 5 if there's a 10 option? That's the best that you can get. And now you can buy the expansion board. So if you bought the 5, you can make it a 10. So it seems like that's where they really think everything's going to be at the 10.
But they've just brought layering out on that.
Yeah,
haven't they?
makes sense now.
So
it does.
That's what the extra voices
exactly.
are for,
But then when you look at this, I mean, this is a 6 voice, and it obviously it does unison, it does poly, and it has this A/B thing. So you can go, so for example, if I can just get my chair to roll back. So if you play this note, that's the A. Let's see, doing that. And then this is the B version of it. And then when you morph between the two, so it's it doesn't have the layering, but it does have this ability to kind of mix things together in a very nice way. But I'd love if that was 12 voice. Gosh, that would be amazing. But yeah, it's good enough as a 6. How about you, Kent? How many voices will the anaglyph have?
Well, here's the thing. This seems to be a thing that happens. I mean, it's even happened here tonight, where starting to mix what you mean by voice and what you mean by polyphony.
Okay,
so you can have a 24 voice synth and it be 8-note polyphonic.
Yeah.
Right.
It's 2 different things, right? Yeah. So, like with layering, for instance, if you got a 6-note poly keyboard and you layer two voices, it's still 6-note poly. It doesn't change, right? And sometimes, I mean, for instance, if you were going to use, like Mark was saying about with release, but if you're using like a long arpeggiation, for instance, and you don't want to hear the note robbing, you put put reverb on it to help mush that over so it doesn't notice so much and stuff like that. 8-note poly seems to be enough
Yeah.
on a single layered machine. And that's, I mean, when I play Prophet 5s, it does catch me out sometimes when I'm playing it that it's only got the five note poly on it. And I have to keep reminding myself of that. But I didn't used to have that problem with the Poly 6. That I ran for about 12 years or something like that. So 6 is good, 8 is better. And then after that, a shitload of voices basically, so you can do lots of layering and messing around. I mean, the Oasis is 192 voice, and I've written stuff on that, and then you can hear it note stealing.
Really?
I go, really? What am I doing wrong? Of course, the sounds I'm using, some of them are layered sounds within the track, along with another track, so it really disappears really, really quick. But yeah, 8 notes probably about as much as you need to do. Yeah, that's pretty good. But 16 voice on 8 note, better.
So I think, I mean, like Manny's just put in here and has just reminded me that, so the Essence FM, which is a synth that both he and I wax mostly lyrical about, has 300 note polyphony. But then, there's a very good reason for that. Not that you're going to be playing 300 notes at the same time with your hands, and it is multi-timbral, 16-part multi-timbral, but it's voice construction. So you create a voice as you would like a regular kind of FM voice with your operators and your carriers, and you create that. Then you take at least one of those voices or more, and you layer them up into a patch. So a patch can be up anything between 1 and I forget, it's like 100 and something voices, and you can have 3,300 and something patches, and each of those patches could have over 120 odd voices in them. And then you can take those patches and you can stack them together in performances. So all of a sudden, your note count is just... I've never maxed it out yet, and I've tried, and it's got a beautiful display on the front that shows you how many of the 300 voices is this grid display, and it shows you, the voices that are being triggered and the voices that are now tailing off. And I've never been able to max it out. I'm sure Manny has tried it, because that's the way he does things. He looks for the breaking points. There you go. He's just said in the chat, I have. But so, yes, it's got 300 note polyphony, but it's because of the way it does what it does that it needs it, and it's practical. But when you're looking at like an analog polysynth, unless you are able to layer things and get those kind of things in there, then I guess 6 to 8 is probably enough for most people.
Yeah, I always found duophonic very annoying though, because as soon as you press that second note and you halve the volume of the other note you were using, and it all goes very plain and weedy all of a sudden. Like that. It's like, go back to unison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just started using a paraphonic synth for the very first time.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, and it's a completely new way of doing things. When you play stuff, you have to think about how that's going to play out within the paraphonic paradigm. So yeah, it's
take a drink.
Yeah, take a drink. So yeah, it's very interesting how that works, and I'm still not used to it. I'm still learning.
I think another factor is, as consumers, there's possibly an element that if you're paying a lot of money for something, you expect a lot more, of things. I remember when I had the Quantum, which I just didn't get on with at all. I think a part of that was my fault, because I was expecting it to be like this one all-encompassing synth, which obviously no synth is. But, it had layers. It's got an A and a B layer. And then when you're paying $3,500 for a synth and you're down to 4 notes, you don't feel good about that, as a consumer. Really, you want to have the polyphony to be 8, don't you? In if you're paying a lot of money for something, even though I'm saying I'm kind of being hypocritical here, even in that, you know, yes, I want 4 as a minimum, of course, as a minimum. That's what I'm saying. I can work with 4 always. I can work with 4. But if I'm paying a lot of money for something, I want more than 4. You know, which is a bit weird when you can spend a lot of money on a mono, but that's a different thing. But in your mind, it makes a different thing. In my mind, anyway.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a financial limit where you think, oh, it's only 8 notes. Okay, but it's 5 notes. Okay, but it's £1,000. Oh, okay, 5-note VCO. Great. You know, speaking about the Take 5, for example.
Yeah.
That's compared to their kind of the next one up in terms of one VCO voice, the Prophet 6. Okay, that's twice the price. Okay, it's twice the price for an extra note. All of a sudden, that Take 5 seems really cheap in comparison.
Yes.
So you think there's definitely money involved in our minds. It's not just a blank canvas of, let's pick an arbitrary number of voices. We need that. Sorry, polyphony. We do need that to incorporate money into the equation as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly how I viewed the Prophecy when I, back in 95, 96, I saw it as a 37-note monophonic monotimbral synth for £1,200-1,300. I can't remember what it was. And I just thought, say you use that equation of how many notes divided into how much I'm paying, and if I can get 8 notes for £500 or 1 note for £1,200, well, the value seems to be with the cheaper one. But then the Prophecy does something that none of these things can do, so it just doesn't work out that way. I had something else in my head that I was going to bring up, and it's completely gone. I'm having one of those days today. I think it must be my age.
It's the paradigm you're in.
It's the paradigm.
No, take a drink.
I mean, that's it. I was going to say, and Kent might be able to answer this one. So,
oh God,
I know that with digital synthesizers, such as anything that uses samples, or anything that is virtual analog, or FM or whatever, I understand why 16 voice polyphony or more is easily doable, because it's digital. That's just because it hasn't got the complexity of the components in there. Why do you think then we seem to be kind of happy with 8 voice polyphonic or 8-note polyphonic analog synthesizers? Why are companies not pushing the boundaries of that in analog synthesis? Is it purely because it's expensive to do, as seen with the Moog 1, because the 16 voice version of that is like $8,000 or something? Is it a cost issue? Is it a heat issue? Is it a design thing? What is it that prevents?
I think it's mostly because of the architecture, isn't it? Because, for instance, a single voice on the Prophet 5, a single note, shall we say, on the Prophet 5 will be where you have VCO A, VCO B. So that's 2 VCOs. You have to have that go down to a filter, 2 envelope generators. That's a lot of chips just for that one note. Right, right then, and never mind all the rest of it. And then all the you have to have because of the architecture of analog, where you have it's most of the ICs work on like 8 channel. So, for instance, where you have a demux that sends out all the various voltages to a voice, it's probably and there's normally about 8 channels on the IC.
Right.
So, to go above 8-note poly, you kind of have to double the amount of electronics in there.
Right.
Because of the amount of channels you're limited to on the ICs. So it's a lot more electronics. I think on digital stuff, I mean, you can do it on literally on a single chip.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to do.
Yeah.
So, because analog's got that, it's more of that physical kind of architecture, I suppose, for want of a better word.
So
so it's a lot of components.
Have we reached, like, is that the pinnacle? Is that the end of the line in terms of analog synthesis design? The reason we can't, or not can't, but most often don't go beyond 8 voices, for the reasons you've explained, that there's a lot of circuits, a lot of chips, a lot of hardware involved to do that. Did synthesizer developers say it's just we can't improve on any of this to reduce the number of chips? We can't invent a new chip that does everything that those 20 chips do and reduce it down.
A combined chip like Apple have done with the processor.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I mean, have they hit a technology buffer that says you can't go beyond this because it's just not technically feasible? And then that's why we have things like digital synthesizers, whether it's virtual analog, where you can do everything on a processor or in a single chip. Do you think there'll ever be a time when we can have an analog?
No, I would speculate that what it was people were developing these analog chips, and that was all well and good. Digital come along and it's going, look, we can do more, we can do it faster, we can do it cheaper, we can do it smaller. And they go, right, well, let's just forget the analog stuff and we'll start doing this gear. Because the analog chips that you see today are the same architecture that the chips were, back in 76, 75. Yeah. They're brand new, they're being made today, but it's the same bloody IC from 40 years ago. Because nobody's really, that I'm aware of, have really pushed the development of those ICs anymore. And they wouldn't, because they go, well, look, digital, this is much easier. This is much cheaper and simpler and smaller and everything else. Let's go and go that way.
Roland.
I'm not so sure. I think there's obviously merit in that, but I think it's more to do with marketing. I think it's more to do with what's the minimum that we can sell. As you got to remember, these are companies that they're making money, and because it's extended to even digital synths. You've got Modal, who are releasing Argon, Cobalt. They're digital. They're still 8 voices. They don't have to be. You've got I got a Roland System 8 here. That's 8 voices. It doesn't have to be. And I think it's a case of what can we get? How can we maximize our profit by giving the minimum amount that we need to give the consumer? And I think it's as simple as that. I think 8 is like a magic number. It's like, yeah that's the number. Let's go with that. And why? Why are Modal doing an 8 voice version? It's digital. Why? Why is the Peak 8 voices? Okay, it's got analog filters, but why?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be any more. It's as simple as that. I mean, remember when the... I've got a Prophet... I've got a Prologue 16. That's so there are 16 voice VCOs available. The Rev 2 16 voice DCOs, but they are analog. But they are twin layered. I don't think you'd get a 16 voice synth that didn't have layers, because I think in people's minds the minimum you need per polyphony for an instrument is 8, and that's why they sell them like that.
But as far as analog's concerned, the reason the memory Moog. God, here we go.
Michelle,
the reason the memory Moog is 6 voice and not 8 is because there is no more room in the case.
Right. Yeah.
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
Right now, but what I found rather interesting though was I've never heard anybody ever say to me, "Oh, I wish it was 8 voice. Wish it was 8. I wish it was 8 note, Polly. That'd be really cool." Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Prophet 6 when it came out, it set a new lower bar. And you've got your Arturia next to you there, Robbie, which is 6, and I don't think that would be there if it wasn't for the Prophet 6, because in a market filled with 8 voice polys, you've got a VCO synth there which is 6. How is that happening? How is it there? Because there's a Prophet 6, which is more expensive. And so, it's marketing. What can we get away with in a modern times? I'm not on about the memory Moog or anything like that. I'm on about, modern times. What is the minimum that we can get away with to maximize our profits?
I suppose
Sadly.
It's a bit it's a bit like the internal combustion engine in cars. I mean, you can have 2-cylinder, 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 5-cylinder, 8 cylinders.
Wankel.
Yeah, Wankel rotary engine.
And you.
But 4-cylinder, certainly here in the UK and in Europe, 4-cylinder is pretty. Every car comes as a 4-cylinder, and then the fancy ones maybe have 6 or 8. I had a 5-cylinder once. That was lovely.
The Quattro, that was 5.
They were. Yeah, no, I had a Fiat Bravo 5-cylinder HGT. Went like shit off a polish shovel, and it made a really, really nice sound because it was unique. However, like you say, 4 is enough. From a 4-cylinder engine, you can have 120 brake horsepower, or you can have 2, maybe even 300 brake horsepower if it's done and tuned correctly. So I guess that's just like an analogy that's just happened in my head.
What I don't understand is when you're using like digital machines, right? If you're using a computer, there's I've never come across any limit on polyphony. It seems as though you put one VST up there, you can play as many notes on that as you want, and then another one and another one, and you've got thousands of notes going on in like a big arrangement. Now, that's possible in that situation. So why was Mark's Quantum running out of notes when it's based on computer technology? I know it's got analog elements in it, but I should imagine the section that's providing the voicing, or the polyphony, is computer controlled totally. It's sat in a computer environment. So
what's the analog element in it, Ben?
I thought it had analog filters, didn't it?
Yeah.
That would be it then.
Yeah.
So if you were to make it 16, now you've got to have 16 filters. And 16 envelope generators for those filters.
So that's the
so that's probably where that would come in. Yeah, as soon as you put an analog element into a machine, the limitation starts again.
Yeah. You see,
thanks.
I think the Body Electric made a point. Lack of multi-timbrality in purely digital synth seems to have become a thing. And he's watching a video. I'd like to watch that. Maybe you could post a link. And this kind of takes me back to that point I made earlier, that like my first synthesizer was 32-part multi-timbral, so I could address 32 separate instruments from my DAW, and as long as I didn't, exceed the polyphony, I was golden. And even in digital synthesizers, we're talking about, what Cobalt or Argon, and we're just using those purely as an example. They're 8 voice when, a different chip would give them 16 voices, and it shouldn't be huge. Well, I'm sure Philip will probably tell us otherwise, but it shouldn't be a huge price difference. But it does seem that multi-timbrality has kind of fallen by the wayside, and that we're happier to have a dozen synthesizers to do different sounds rather than having one synthesizer to do all of those sounds, if it was, of course, possible. The Essence FM is 60. That's the first multi-timbral synth I've bought, I think, since my Roland or my Yamaha CS1.
Do you reckon doors might have something to do with it?
I think so. I think the way we make music has changed now. In the olden days, like, you'd have to have hardware to do anything, and so a hardware unit that can give you like 32 tracks of something was a good investment then, because that could be your workhorse, and everything else was like glitter on top of it. And now the computer's the workhorse, and people tend to buy a few pieces of hardware that can't really. Well, this is how I think people work. They might have an analog mono synth there and an analog poly there, because they're just doing them jobs. That one's just doing bass, or it's just doing a lead, and that's doing all your pads, and everything else is coming from the computer. I think we've shifted away from that.
I suppose the multi-timbrality, because that really kind of became a thing. I don't know when the first, what was it, the M1? Was the M1 one of the first kind of popular multi-timbral synths?
I think
so. That was
89? Yeah, they say that's like the first workstation, really.
Yeah,
don't they?
and which is then my point is multi-timbrality became a thing when we had workstations because it was essential. A workstation would be useless if without being at least 8 or 16 part multi-timbral. I mean, Charles said in the chat that his CZ5000 was 8 part multi-timbral. So the odd ones,
Kurzweil were one for pushing that as well.
Of course, yes. Oh, so Kurzweil, they were well before the M1, but it suits the workstation.
I don't think we've moved away from that because it's no longer fashionable or anything like that. I think we've moved away from it because we prefer having different flavors of sounds. I would much rather have 8 different pieces of equipment that offered different kind of sonic palettes rather than everything done in one box, which ultimately will have the same sheen to it. I think that's maybe different in a DAW environment where you got, because each plug-in manufacturer then is offering you a different palette because they're not all made by the same, unless you've got Arturia for everything, then or Cherry Audio, then you're going to have different palettes there as well. And it's the same with hardware. I would much rather have a Minilog, a Rev 2, a Matriarch, and whatever else is in this room, offering different sounds in a slightly different way. Even if you can create similar sounds in them, the timbres are slightly different, and that's what you want. And I'd rather that than, take something like the Waldorf Kira, which, has that fallen flat on his face? I don't know anybody who's got one, and yes, it's, 128 note polyphony and multiple outs. You can connect it to the computer and it's got digital audio across everything. But in this day and age, I think it's out of place because nobody wants the same sounds coming from the same box anymore. And I think that's the difference.
That is true. And I think if you listen to a lot of music that was created solely on a single workstation, say, for example, an M1 or a Roland or something, it has... There's yes. There is. It has a bandwidth, doesn't it? That everything sits in there. It all kind of sounds very similar. And like you say,
does,
we live in a very lucky time, don't we?
Even machines that I have that are multi-timbral, when I record them onto the DAW, I play one sound.
Yes.
On and have that track, and then play another sound for another track, and then go to a different machine and mix and match.
Yeah.
I know when I was writing stuff with the sound canvas, I had the 2 MIDI outs from my computer going into that, and then was just multi-tracking. But obviously, I only ever had to address one instrument. I just put in the program change to choose which instrument was going to happen on one track, and it was so convenient. But at the same time, when I listen back to that stuff, forget the composing element aside, which was pretty naive and rubbish and amateurish. But it all sounded like it came from the same instrument. It didn't have dynamic, it didn't have that kind of dynamic that you get from multiple. So
multi-timbrally was there because we didn't have computers with Cubase and Logic running.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper just to get one instrument, wasn't it? Just cheaper to get something that you could do everything on than buying a whole load of stuff.
The JV 1080 was a cracking all-rounder, but I remember you used to have to do voice allocation on that, So if there was no point in having like 10 voices assigned to your bass line if it was never going to go over one note, so you'd be swapping things around all over the place and that.
Yeah.
But one of the real drawbacks by that system that was really popular on nearly everything at the time is you'd have like different modes. You'd have the performance mode and the multi-mode, and everything sounded great in performance mode. But when you use them same sounds in multi-mode, all the effects were missing, and they sounded crap. Like you had a list of all your favourite performance sounds, and that when you came to doing a multi-part sequence, they all sounded rubbish.
Yeah, because that was the other thing I found with the SC88. Although you could have different levels of reverb, you could only have one reverb choice. So you picked hall, and then you could have different levels of hall across your instruments, but you couldn't have room or whatever else. You could only have one thing. So
that's what I get on the Oasis as well. So when you go to do multi-layering, you can still only have the one effects chain on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have separate ones for each track. And that was a $5,000 synth.
Yeah.
And it was still like, you're quite... So you get this beautiful sound, you put it, right, we'll have this in track 1, and it's like, most of that was effect, was it? Oops.
I think the Virus TI let you have whatever effects were on the kind of performance patches in multi-mode. I'm pretty sure that was one of its more attractive features,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody can
I can't remember.
correct me on that. The Virus TI2, I think it did. But that sounded great in multi-mode when you had loads of things running. But it's like Mark was saying, it is that universal tone right through your track. That way of working isn't as popular anymore, is it? That's the problem.
I think we've answered our own question for sure. Then.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting. I've learned some stuff today, and I hope maybe other people have too. Every day's a school day, as they say.
Don't stick your fingers in a wall socket.
Indeed.
That's what I learned today.
I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
I found out why what I thought was digital synths didn't have unlimited voices because of the analog parts in them.
Yeah.
Mostly from a
Because
cost point of view.
that's been bugging me. Why don't they do it?
Anyway, right. Well, I think it's time because I think my missus has started to chop the firewood downstairs. So I need.
Is that a euphemism?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know where it came from, but somebody did. I'm just trying to find this thing here because I want to share this on the screen, but I think it might have been a bit too long ago because this only goes back so far. But basically, somebody said, really like what Mark has said today. You should have him as a guest more often.
How dare you?
So,
that's what I say.
Give me a rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've got another one for the subs bench for sure. I was just trying. I still can't find the comment on there, but whoever said that, thank you. And I kind of agree. He's all right, isn't he? It was probably
What?
Yeah.
I'm just pleased my internet held up. That's right.
Yeah, it's done pretty well. It's done pretty well. So listen, everyone, thank you, Mark, thank you, Kent, thank you as always, Ben. I hope that Cryss has had a lovely week off. And let me just tell you who else we've got coming up in this show, in these hot seats, in the forthcoming week. So you might have tuned in today to see Martin Ware. And unfortunately, as you can tell, Martin couldn't make it for reasons beyond our control. But he apologises profusely, and he will be back with us hopefully very, very soon. Now, I'm filling here because I seem to have lost my list of people who are coming on the show. Where is that gone?
I think we're going to try and get Martin on before the end of the year if we can.
I hope so, yeah. I hope so. Where has my list gone? I've lost my list. My list of people. Where did
It's over there.
go?
No,
it's not.
there.
Hang on. Maybe
Next one.
Did you look on the hook where you normally keep them?
Have I deleted it? No. Ben, what's happened to my list? It's gone.
Oh no!
Should play some Snow Patrol in the background while you're doing that.
The proper list.
Yeah. Can you see it? Because I can't. We have a shared.
Oh no!
thing.
It's just disappeared. It's just disappeared for me as well.
Is it
I
there?
could see it for a second. I clicked on it and it vanished. Oh.
That's really.
Check your pockets.
Well, I'm checking. I'm checking the. Oh gosh, this is embarrassing.
Can you remember?
It is because we won't know who's on.
Are you quoting Marillion songs now, Ken?
So next week we have somebody.
We have someone. I can't.
Tune in. Surprise episode.
Genuinely can't remember.
It'll be you again, Kent.
I'll have a look on my phone and do a screenshot.
I am really
You're going to take
confused.
a contract out on me if I come on this.
I've got the guests up here on my phone.
Well, see,
Come on, Mark. Fill in.
This is really good content. This is, by the
Yeah,
way.
This is
this
yeah.
is
I'm sorry.
very
Fill in,
pro
Mark.
here. Hang on.
Got it. I've got it.
Oh, he's found it.
I've got it. So before it disappears off my phone again, right, here we go. So,
Drum roll.
drum roll. We're kicking off October with Mr. Ken Flux Pierce. He's coming back. He's not been on for a while, so we've got Ken back on.
Cool.
And then the week after that, how could I forget this? We hopefully, because I say this because we were hoping that Martin would be here this week, but hopefully on October 8th, we've got Steve Porcaro from Toto. Which I am stupidly excited about that one. So that's on October 8th, and then we've got some guy called Kent Spong on the 15th.
Who?
Spongo.
Yeah,
God.
Spongo.
I'll miss that one. I'll skip that one.
Then, and we've got loads of questions for this guy. Axel Hartman's going to be joining us on October 22nd.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really cool. And then we're going to be joined again by one of our first kind of big name guests on October 29th, Mr. Mick McNeil, formerly of Simple Minds, will be joining us again. And hopefully we'll have fluid video and not the literally it was static. You could hear everything he was saying, but it was just like that all the time.
It was like an episode
It's
of
the
Captain
Botox.
Pugwash, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah, so Mick McNeil is
Excellent
around
image.
on October 29th. Going into November, we've got Tim Dorney from Republica and other things, of course, but most of us know him from the Republica days. And then we've got some guy called Dr. Mike Metley, who's been in the chat room. Thank you for your continued presence. Mike, of course, is the author of Synth Gems 1, and he's got a long and rich history in the writing of music technology. So we're going to have him on November 12th, and then I think Kent's back again at some point in November. And then hopefully in December we'll fill in, we'll get Martin back in, and we'll hopefully have a few more guests as we work towards, the Christmas shows. We might do
Vince
something
Clark
special.
got back to you yet?
No, Vince hasn't. No.
No.
Excuse me. I've been trying for Bowie for ages, but he won't return my call. Was that a bit? No. So I'm thinking
Shout quite loud.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon.
It's
We've
always
been dead
too soon
10
with
years.
Bowie. Yeah.
I thought it said bark, and that's too soon.
I'd like to know what we might want to do on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, because our shows fall on both of
Get
those
pissed.
days. Should we do Synth Network with bottles of booze?
Well,
Yeah, special episode called "All Synths Are Shit."
You could have commandeered my channel by
around
doing
on
that.
New Year's Eve, but I might be around on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we'll have to sort something out. We'll come up with a Christmas schedule.
Conscious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come up with a
Won't
Christmas
be around
schedule.
at any of that period.
If anybody has any suggestions for guests, and I mean realistic suggestions, people have been saying Vangelis, fat chance. Jean-Michel Jarre, probably stand more of a chance of getting him on. But
I tried Boris Blank, didn't I? He wasn't.
You
having
did,
it.
and he blanked you.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I can get hold of Vangelis,
You could.
Yeah.
but I don't know. Wait a minute, I don't know.
We've also got to get Mr. David Arnold back on, because he owes us. He owes us a half a show at least.
Yeah, he wants to talk about his Quadra
Yeah, well, yeah,
and his
absolutely.
CS80. Ooh.
Yeah, we loved having him on, but he had to go sort of like after an hour, so we want to get him back on to finish that whole thing. Anyway, listen, guys, Mark, thank you ever so much. Been an absolute
great.
pleasure. We will have you back, no doubt. Kent,
Happy to come back.
yeah, Kent, always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
Well, that's what they say.
No, it's true. It's absolutely
To your face.
yeah.
Yeah, to my place behind you.
Ben, on the other hand, can't. Honestly, he's always hanging around. It's like a bad smell. Thank you for doing the. Thank you for doing the show thing. This thing.
Oh yeah.
Very last minute.
Yeah.
I look almost handsome in
I
that.
know. Well,
It's because you're next to me.
It's 'cause
It's because you're next to
Ben.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very good. So we'll be back
that's below
same
the
time,
belt.
same place next week. Don't forget, please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. We're getting close to the 1,000, and it's small, but it's significant. It's a bit, yeah. So please do. Oh, hit my mic. Please subscribe. Please like the show live. Apparently, makes a difference. If you like the show when it's actually live, it's better than liking it after the event. But of course, if you are watching this on catch up, hit the like button, of course, if you like it. If you don't like it, don't hit
Hit it anyway.
Hit it
Anyway,
Yeah. What do you lose?
Anything.
So hopefully we'll have a bit more news. The news levels will come up again next week, and if not, we'll just sit here and talk bollocks for a couple of hours.
Yes.
People seem to like it. Thank you ever so
I've
much.
never done that before.
Oh, and if you are new to the channel, go and check out some of the other shows, because we've had some fantastic guests on with fantastic stories and tales, everything's chaptered, so you can skip to the best bits and leave out the worst bits, and it's all good fun. And if you want to donate, of course, if you feel that we are worthy of some cash input, then you can do that. The link will be in the description underneath the video, but there it is. And join us, of course, on all the social media channels. It's all at Synth Network. And one more time, please subscribe and hit the bell. I've even got, I haven't used it today, have I? I had that special animated graphic, which I can't find. There it is. Boom. Subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe.
He was up until about
I
3:30.
can never
doing
get the
that.
angles right.
No. So, thank you. That's a very long, convoluted way of saying goodbye. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you all same time, same place next week. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Take care. And I'm filling here because I haven't got my video lined up.
Oh, you're okay.
That's all
There we
done.
go.
Line
Go on,
your
keep going,
video
keep going.
up, lad.
Bye-bye.
My hand's coming off.